have a pretty easy time in that game. Not so much lately, so I want to thank, it's an honor for me to be here. I can't think of a better group of folks to be able to speak in front of VFW. I'm a lifetime member. It's something that means a lot to me, and really, I think the service that people here mean a lot to our country. And I can tell you, the state of Florida is one state that not only the state, but the governor honors the service of all of our veterans. You know, people sometimes ask me, hey, what have you learned since being governor? What stuck out? And I think they think I'm going to say, well, you know, you deal with a hurricane like this or that, and there are definitely a lot of lessons. But I can tell you, we live in the governor's mansion in Tallahassee, my wife and I, with a 4-year-old daughter, a 3-year-old son, and a 1-year-old daughter. We're blessed, but it's a lot for sure. So what I learned, and what Casey has learned as well, is you know the nice wallpaper in the state dining room? We can get finger paint off of that. We figured out how to get the rugs clean and everything, because we deal with that non-stop. Florida is the freest state in this country. And that wasn't by accident, and in fact, when we made sure Florida was the oasis of freedom, there were a lot of people, particularly in the media, who didn't like what we were doing. You know, people, now the debate is, because everyone wants to come here, who should the realtor of the year in Florida be? Should it be the governor of New York, Illinois, Michigan, whoever's driving their people out? Because, you know, it's a joke, and obviously there have been a lot of bad policies that have driven people out. But you got to have the good policies that people want to come to. And had I not won my election in 2018, I can tell you we would not be the freest state in this country. Locking people down, not allowing kids to get an education, putting people out of business. Florida lifted people up. We're proud to be the only big state in the country where this school year 100% of parents had the ability to send their kid to school in person. We're also proud that we were able to save the jobs of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Floridians, and we've saved thousands and thousands of family businesses. You know, these lockdowns were very good for Amazon and big tech and all these massive companies, but they decimated the small businesses. In Florida, we're holding big tech accountable, and we're standing up for small. Lockdown states, lower unemployment than the national average.
Do that.
We've had for over a year, our cruise ships have been closed by the CDC. A couple of months ago, I said we've had enough of that. We brought a lawsuit against the CDC in federal court. When we did that, typical media said, oh, this is never going to succeed. Well, guess what? Today, we won the case. Yeah! Being the place people want to go, leading the country on all host of issues. A lot of these other states have made huge mistakes. At the end of the day, we chose freedom over Fauci.
Yes,
And you know, reason why we did that was because I understood, as elected leader, as a governor, my job was not to subcontract out responsibility to health bureaucrats or to Fauci or any of these other people. My responsibility was to look at the information myself, consult a wide range of people, understand that yes, we did take a lot of important action with regards to COVID, but you have all these other society that matters, the kids, the jobs, all this other stuff, and you got to be able to make decisions that are in the best interest of the state. And the person that I thought pointed that out best was President Eisenhower in his farewell address. Many people remember it when he talked about the military-industrial complex, which is very important, and he was right. But if you read that inaugural address, he said, because he saw all this scientific research being interlocked with the government. You see Fauci, he controls all this funding. There's a lot of corruption involved in how this is going. So you see this, and Eisenhower said, look, the job of a statesman is not to let policy be captive by some technocratic elite who's not elected by anyone. The job of the statesman, you welcome different scientific advances, you welcome different information, but ultimately you've got to make the decisions that are in the best interest. And what I saw throughout the country were governors who were scared of being criticized. Yep. All they did was hide behind the bureaucrats. Yep. And they were afraid to make decisions. Yep. That is not leadership. No. Leadership means you get out. We're happy about, we're proud of that, but here's, I think, going to be an issue for our country and really for the world was they knew that this thing leaked from this lab very early.
Yes, they did. Yes.
Fauci's talking about it on email and then publicly saying, "Oh no, we know it came from a bat naturally." And so I think we need to understand that this would not have. First of all, that our government should not be funding research like this that creates these super viruses.
Yes.
And Fauci said that this was years ago before COVID happened. He said that the research was worth the risk of another pandemic.
No!
Well, here we have this leaking. I mean, almost all signs point to it leaking out of this lab in Wuhan, China. And yet, what did China do? They covered it up. What did the bureaucrats in the United States do? They tried to cover it up.
Yes, they did.
I think we need to hold China accountable, but we also need to hold people like Fauci accountable.
Yes, we do.
So here's I think, and this is going to be a long time coming, but I think it's very important because what ended up happening to our country with kids being locked, there's states where kids were locked out of school for a whole year.
Yep.
Okay? That's going to have huge consequences. You had people's lives ruined, you have all these people. We can't let this happen to our country again.
Never. Never.
Either this research get out of hand or let governors lock people down for a year plus. So it's a lesson. I'm glad that Florida led the way because if we had not led the way, this country would still be locked down like this.
That's right. You're right. You're right. Yes. Woo, you're so right.
So Florida also has led over the past year and a half on standing up for the men and women of law enforcement. When we saw riots breaking out last summer across the country, I made it very clear that would not happen in the state of Florida. We called up the National Guard. We deployed law enforcement assets from the state. We worked with our local officials, and we were able to prevent a Minneapolis or a Seattle or New York from happening here. But I knew that this was not something that was just going to go away. And so this legislative session, I asked the legislature to pass, and I did sign a couple months ago, the strongest anti-rioting pro-law police.
Yes! Yes!
We also say to anybody who may be engaged in rioting or looting or mob violence, if you engage in that activity in Florida, you're not going to go like they do in Portland, where they take your mugshot, slap you on the wrist, and put you back on the street to do it all over again. If you engage in mob violence in Florida, you're going to jail. And you
Yes! 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 Woo! That's my man!
There's so many places across this country who are trying to defund law enforcement. We not only fund law enforcement, we also were able to secure $1,000 bonuses for all police and fire. You know, I think we see different threats to freedom. I mean, I think you look at some of the, first of all, I'm very proud when it became time to distribute the vaccines. You know, the CDC actually, they were saying, don't give it to the elderly first. Because they said the elderly are not, quote, diverse enough, that they're too white, is what they said. And so that was their initial plan, and they knew that it was going to cost more people their lives. So I was the first governor in the country to reject CDC and say, you know what, in Florida, we're putting our seniors first.
Yes, you did! Thank you!
As part of that, you know, we recognize that we've got a lot of folks who are 65, 70, who are very, very active. But we also have some, our World War II veterans, our Korean veterans. These are folks that are in their late 80s, 90s. We even have some that are 100 years old. And so we did a special program to go to the homes of our World War II veterans and our Korean War veterans, deliver vaccine right in the comfort of their own home. And we've done thousands of veterans throughout the state of Florida by doing our homebound seniors program. So we were proud to do that because they deserve it. They fought for us, and so I was sure as hell going to fight for them.
Thank you! Yes, thank you!
I raised that because the CDC, what they did when we did seniors first, other states started following Florida, and eventually the CDC had to reverse. But if you were on Facebook and you were talking about criticizing CDC, they would have censored you at the time.
Yes, they did.
If you would have talked about this virus leaking from the Wuhan lab, they would have censored you last year. If you would have talked about last year lockdowns causing damage, they would have taken you down and they would have censored you. So it raises the issue of protecting Floridians against being censored by big tech.
Yes,
and we're doing that in the state of Florida. We're the only state that has signed legislation.
Yes, yes.
I'm going to say that.
But we're used to facing threats to freedom in the form of an autocrat. We beat Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan in World War II. We've seen people in Florida flee from communist China and places like socialist Venezuela. I met with a business owner. We were over in Pinellas County. She fled from Vietnam under communism. And so we're used to that. Obviously, that's a threat to freedom when government takes over like that. But what we're also witnessing with the rise of these massive tech companies that control so much of our daily lives, they have so much control over the speech in this country. Freedom can be threatened from massive companies and private concentrations of power. And so what we're doing in Florida is we're saying very clearly to big tech, look, if you're going to hold yourself out as an open platform, if you're going to take liability protection from the federal government because you say you're an open platform, but then you're going to single out views you disagree with, or you're going to censor the truth, which they have done many times, we're giving Floridians the ability to fight back against big tech. What I don't want is to have big tech working hand in hand with a very dishonest and corrupt corporate media outlets like NBC News and 60 minutes on CBS. They lie repeatedly every day. They lie. They make a lot of money lying. But what they do, speaking of law enforcement and the media, there was a shooting. An officer engaged a suspect in Columbus, Ohio, a couple months ago. And what happened was a lady called in 911. She says, "Hey, I'm being attacked by a knife. Someone's got a knife. They're coming after me." So the officer goes, shows up. Yes, someone had a knife. He says, "Put it down." She didn't. So then he engaged, probably saved the victim's life. NBC News, when they put that on the evening newscast, they played the 911 call and they edited out the portion where the victim said the assailant had a knife.
Yep.
And then when they showed the body cam of the officer engaging, they edited out the portion that showed the assailant with the knife. So you have to ask yourself, why would they do that? Well, that's very deliberate. They did that because they were trying to put a target on the officer's back. They were trying to create division in this country, and they were trying to create a narrative that they could use for their partisan political purposes. These people are bad actors. They cannot be trusted, and they are trying to divide this country. We need to start standing up against them. Is we really need to look at our education system and make sure that the people who are producing out of this education system, that they understand the sacrifices that our veterans have made, that they understand the principles that this country was founded on, that they understand accurate history and not things like critical race theory, which says all Americans are racist. It's very important. So what we're doing in Florida, we're making a strong effort at getting the Constitution back in the classrooms, teaching our students about what it means to be an American. Because, you can teach good math, but not everyone's going to go into that. You can teach good other types of subjects, but not everyone may use that in their life. It's still worth learning, but I'll tell you what, every single person, no matter what field of you go into, occupation, you're going to be called upon to discharge the duties of citizenship. And you need to be able to do that with a solid foundation. So we would like to see every senior in high school, as a requirement of graduation, to pass a test similar to what the immigrants have to do, a citizenship test.
Thank you, Governor.
Civics, we're getting it back, but we're also helping to make sure that the teachers are up to date, that they know. So we're going to unveil, announce we're going to do it. We did get the funding for it. We're going to provide civics boot camps for all our teachers so they can go. We're going to have great curriculum, and then they're going to get a $3,000 bonus if they go through.
Thank you!
Constitutional carry.
And we have to do that because, at the end of the day, you see some of this stuff that's happening across the country. You see these businesses that are, quote, woke. You see the universities and some of the things that they're doing. And what bugs me about it is they all carry a disdain for this country in their ideology. And I don't want to see that. I want people to understand the history of the country. I want them to understand the principles. There's a reason why people try to get to this country, okay? They leave these other places. And so we have to make people understand that. We shouldn't be producing people that take for granted being an American or thinking that somehow this country doesn't provide opportunity. I don't care what race, what gender, what part of the country you're from. You have more opportunity in this country, rich, poor, black, white, than any other country in the world.
Yes.